released an EP a little less than a year ago, but most of the songs have been in production for years before that. So welcome to my version of a Genius walkthrough a song, because Genius did not contact me. For the production of this EP, I kept it kind of stripped down and acoustic for the sake of money and time. I would love to do full production stuff later on, but this one's more just raw, where I was at the time. Big ol' shout out to Cody Hunter at the Basement Space in Nashville. He's a fantastic producer. He's great to work with. A lot of my songs talk about just the general instability that I feel on a day-to-day basis with existence. For those of you that are into Enneagram, I think I'm a 6-wing-5. A lot of my life is searching for something that is stable when I feel like I'm not. The first track on the EP is called Ode to Midday. For those of you that think that I ripped 21 Pilots off, it only looks that way. I actually wrote a poem in 8th grade called Ode to Passover. That was for a school project that was about a lamb, and it was its own thing. So whenever I wrote the title of the song, I was thinking more along those lines, and then realized later on that like my thing of 21 Pilots covers kind of makes it look like I totally ripped them off. And I didn't. I only totally ripped off Switchfoot in most of my songs. I wrote this song when I was 17. It disguises my greatest insecurities and underlying fears. The concept of it was that I luckily haven't really ever had trouble sleeping at night due to thoughts, but I do struggle with anxiety more so at this point in my life, but it hits me more throughout the day than it does at night and kind of gets in the way of the things that I'm trying to get done. So this was speaking to those aspects of myself, and whenever I find myself in that vulnerable place where it feels like the entire world is spinning, I try to have a few foundational truths that I go back to. I have things that I thought at one point when I had a clear head and a sound mind, these things are true. So then the spinning out of control version of myself can trust that earlier version of myself and say, if it was true then, it must be true now, so I'm going to hold on to that. The second verse kind of taps into the concept that we know what we want to do and be, and yet our own faultiness as human beings contradict that often. So even though you want to do something, a lot of times you don't do it and end up doing the wrong thing, and it messes with your head. But I am grateful to have something that I trust in, to know that I am continually loved and supported even when I fail. I think the rest of it kind of speaks for itself. I'm not a big piano player, but I got to play piano on this track, and it turned out really nicely. The second track on this EP is titled I'm Here. This one has a story. I wrote it after a mutual friend attempted suicide, and they were in the mental hospital, and I was young and didn't know how to handle it, because I've never lost anyone close to me, and I feel so fortunate to not have had to live through that. So it rattled me, and I just immediately went over every interaction that we ever had, and the ways that person made me smile ever, and thinking of, was there anything else that I could have done to assure them that their life matters, and that even though we've barely interacted, they still had an impact on my life that would have been missed if they were gone. And so I wrote a song about it. My favorite line from this song is, "The good you do won't be known to you here." I was trying to get the thought across that we don't understand our impact. It's so much more vast and greater than we could understand. The fact that I could go to Walmart and smile at an employee and compliment them, and there's a chance that that is exactly what they needed on that day and it changed their life. I wouldn't know that. So that's a line to say, don't underestimate your worth, because it is far greater than you will ever understand. I think that about sums it up. That person doesn't even know that this song is about them. but it's there for anyone that needs it. The third song on this project is called More Than Stones. I wrote this one for my friend Camden Hooper. I kind of gauge the history of my life by before Cam and after Cam because my life was radically changed after becoming a friend. Cam is the one that introduced me to 21 Pilots, which it's obvious to see the effect that their impact has had on my life, and I just learned to see the world in a more beautiful way upon contact with the way that Camden thought about things. And I learned how to understand the concept of unconditional love and beneficial conflict resolution and my own self-worth in that friendship. So why not write a song about it? We became friends through text primarily for the first couple months that we knew each other, and so the bridge of that song is illustrating that concept, that we got to know each other without really knowing each other in person, and then after that it was just like, I don't know, super tight, whatever. For the production of this song I got to use a kalimba. It's this guy. I got it for Christmas, and I brought it with me to the studio. I was like, can we do anything with this? And Cody was like, yeah! So we did. Next is Stay Positive in This Economy. I wrote this song during the 2016 elections because I was so fed up with the news. I wrote it about one particular candidate that we all know and do not like, but it really grew to represent every political candidate because I get so frustrated with how polarizing politics is. Everyone communicates as though there is two sides to each argument when really there's usually hundreds of different options, and the person in front of you matters infinitely more than the policy that you are talking about, so why would we be rude to each other? That's my opinion. But I was fed up with the way that politicians treat each other and treat us. And so I wrote this song as my angsty contribution to the world of music. Now the last two songs on the project are kind of a part one and part two of the two phases of life that I find myself flowing in and out of. So I tend to either feel totally stuck, kind of like I'm not doing anything productive or good in the world, and I feel sad and I feel not good whatsoever, or the next day or week or month I feel like I'm killing it and just so productive and motivated and doing great things, and then it comes right back around again. So Stagnant is facing the sadder, slower part of my life. The chorus is addressing my indecisiveness in that I don't want to move if I don't have to, but I also won't move if it's not the right thing. And so it's my expression of looking for an answer of what am I supposed to do. I find in analyzing my music that I need to be a little easier on myself. Let's not turn this anger to regret was the first line that came to me when I was writing this song. It was addressing how sometimes when I get angry, I will do things that I think are justified to make myself feel better, but they're not good things to do. And so I was in a moment of anger about to do something stupid, and then I had to kind of pause and be like, this isn't worth it. And then the rest of the song was born. So then the last song, Movement, is the most fun of these to play. It was the product of having a handful of things in my life that I was waiting for and believing for, and then I was starting to see them happen. And it was a beautiful time. It should be noted that the ocean is one of my favorite things in existence, so talking about the things that I love and want nothing more than to see. And it was kind of metaphorical because I live in Texas and nowhere near California. So that's what that was about. So it was a product of starting to see some dreams come true, and even though they hadn't come to fruition yet, I was holding on that they would. The bridge is a little wordy looking back on it, but it was born out of the feeling of gratitude of getting to love someone well. It was just kind of a, like, what I have now is enough. And I hope that these things that I dream for in the future will grow and be more evident, but for right now, this bit of evidence that I have is enough. It's trying to convey that even when the things that you hope for aren't there yet, it's important to hold on to the evidence that you do have, and that sometimes that's enough. So there you go. There's a project that I worked on for like 4 years of my life. That was a super quick analysis of it, but let me know if you have any further questions, questions about specific lines or anything like that. Thank you for caring at all.